DeGrom gave up 3 home runs already.
3?
First inning and 2 in the third. Do you think they would take him out?
I'm waiting for this to load on your thing. So we're back. We're going to give it a minute, guys. It's not loading anything. There we go. Alright, cool. Thank you for coming back. We'll give it another minute or so, and then we'll get back in. Hi, buddy. Thanks for coming back. And then we will start season 3. I opened the window so it'll be a lot cooler.
It's hot in here.
Hopefully. Alright, cool. We're back up to what we were at. So we're going to go into season 3. So we're not going to kind of go in any kind of order for the rest of this. We're going to give you guys the basics of what goes on. We're going to start crossing off a lot more names in this one. Yeah, because season 2 wasn't anything crazy, right?
No. I don't know. It's hard to keep up.
Alright, so season 3. Braun starts to become extremely important in season 3. Braun has these, good, so hopefully this helps you out, buddy. Bran, has these dreams where he sees this raven, and it's called the 3-Eye Raven. And he keeps coming back more and more and more and more, and then what happens is he meets this boy named Jojen, who sees what Bran sees in the dreams. And Bran's going to learn that he's a warg. Warg is when Bran can suddenly take over or go into the mind of somebody else and move them and see what they see and do what they do. So he does it to a couple of people. First he does it to Hodor, up in some tower where they don't want people to hear about them. And he kind of shuts Hodor down. And Jojen tells him, you shut down Hodor, that's a big creature. Hodor is the person who carries Bran around for, what's the girl with them? Osha. She's kind of a cool character, actually. I don't know what happens there.
She does.
She does?
Yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah, she gets to her.
What a good show. Makes penalty of his... I can't do this anymore. Anyways,
Okay.
So Jojen is also a warg, and we're going to learn that a member of the Night's Watch is also a warg. So they can see animals. That's like the easier thing to do besides using a person. So the fact that Bran was able to do it to Hodor showed a big... it was like a big step for him.
Yeah.
What also happens is that Jon is fighting with somebody and they want to see what goes on. Don't touch my phone. And Bran goes into Ghost? Or is it Summer?
It might be... I don't know. It's either... It's probably... If I had to guess, I would say it was Summer. Yeah, because I think Ghost is still north of the wall.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
So he uses his warging to go into... He sees what Summer sees, and he walks around at Summer, and he sees that Jon is like right outside with them, but he can't join Jon. But he does learn that he has to go to King's Landing. I don't remember.
We're talking about Bran?
Yeah, because Bran splits off from Osha and Rickon, and they are going...
No, they continue to go... So they have to go north of the wall.
Right, but Osha and Rickon go separate. They break off at this point.
Yeah, I don't even...
So Jon and the Wildlings are still marching around, and Jon is convincing them that, hey, I'm one of you now, and Ygritte and him start to kind of get this love connection. Jon will break his... Don't do that. Jon will break his oath in this one, and he sleeps with Ygritte. He falls in love with her, they become a big thing, they become a big deal for the remainder of the season and season 4. Gilly and Sam are still together, it's a big thing, so Sam helped Gilly escape with her son, which she eventually names Little Sam. Not understanding. AJ, what's up, man? As we go on...
Actually, going into that Gilly and Sam thing, when they are still north of the wall, so Sam agrees to take Gilly south, away from Craster, and away from the house that they lived in. They get attacked by a White Walker. So Sam, who is as big a coward as anybody's ever seen, tries to actually fight off the White Walker, gets thrown aside, and the White Walker's going for Gilly's baby. He wants to turn Gilly's baby to create another White Walker. Sam uses one of those dragon glass daggers that he had, and that he had found in episode 2, and we're good? Okay. And he stabs the White Walker in the back, which is actually what kills a White Walker. So Sam kind of stumbles across the fact that dragon glass can kill White Walkers, which until this point we had no idea what could kill a White Walker. Regular steel from a sword would actually shatter on contact. So
which we'll go back to season 1 real quick because we kind of forgot this. When G.R. Mormont the leader of the Night's Watch, gets attacked. Jon's sword is made of Valyrian steel, which can also kill the Nightwalkers. The White Walkers. We kind of forgot to mention that part. We started to go into it and got sidetracked. As what happens to happen.
Season 3. Jaime loses his hand.
Well, you just jumped.
Yeah. Whoops.
You jumped.
I mean, that's pretty big.
Littlefinger, you learn, has this master plan where he wants to marry Sansa. He wants to take her away. He offers to take her away, and she doesn't want to leave. For some reason, eventually she decides, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't, but she doesn't. So that's going to be Littlefinger being his slimy bastard self again. Dany visits this place called Astapor, where she's going to meet a big part of her army. So she has the Dothrakis, and now she's going to purchase what are known as the Unsullied. She purchases them from this douchebag. And then she meets Grey Worm, who's going to be a big character throughout. He's
And
an
Missandei.
awesome part of the trailer as well. And she'll meet Missandei. These are all slaves, and she tells them, you are no longer enslaved, but you can fight for me if you want, you don't have to. She ends up having one of her dragons attack. She goes for a trade, ends up having her dragon attack their owner and killing him, and now they see that, oh, this lady is for real, so the Unsullied join her. The Unsullied are
Eunuchs.
castrated. They're eunuchs. Varys, who eventually we'll talk about, he's really just a side dude, is also a eunuch. So, not Nicktend. Anyways, we'll go into a quick episode. No, wait, I forgot one thing. Okay, so this woman, Lady Olenna of Tyrell, shows up finally. She's finally introduced to the show, and she meets Sansa, and she's sitting with Marjorie, because what happens is Joffrey decides he's going to wed Marjorie instead of Sansa, which to Sansa seems like a slap in the face, but she really knows that Joffrey is insane. This is more of a good thing. Uncle Doug is finally on. You missed the whole first hour. Thanks for coming on, though. Who was I? So Olenna is sitting with Sansa and Marjorie, and flat out asks a question about Joffrey because she wants to know, is Joffrey the right person for Marjorie? She doesn't want anything to get messed up. Sansa learns that she can kind of trust Olenna, and they ask, he's wearing his cloak. And so they have a trustworthy connection, Sansa and Olenna, to begin with, and she kind of realizes that Marjorie is still a little nuts. Loras is told by Tywin that he's to med Cersei as well. Loras is the one we told you he was in love with Renly, so he's kind of gay.
He's kind.
So, anyways.
Lady Olenna is the grandma you never knew you wanted.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
She's awesome.
Uncle Doug's about to make a comment on something she says, I bet.
Yeah.
We're going to go into a quick episode. So there was this episode called The Climb, and this was Attack Against the Night's Watch Wall. Tormund Giantsbane gets introduced.
It's not the attack on the wall.
Oh, they climb the wall. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ygritte and Jon Snow climb the wall from the north.
Right, and it's an ice wall. It's a 700-foot ice wall that they talk about a lot in the show. Tormund is introduced along with...
There's a lot of... Mance Rayder.
Mance Rayder is the one I'm thinking
The
of.
king beyond the wall, the leader of the wildlings.
So he's the person that's going to kind of become the new badass for a while. And he has Tormund, who's kind of like his little sidekick guy who does everything, and he'll threaten Jon a lot. Tormund is awesome. How did this get dust? It was in a box.
Let's see. I said Jaime loses his hand. I want to go back to that. Brienne is trying to take Jaime back to King's Landing on Catelyn Stark's
Run through this whole thing.
ridiculous idea of bringing Jaime to the capital in exchange for her daughters. Very silly idea in the first place. However, they stumble upon the Boltons, or a Bolton army. They get taken to Harrenhal, which is where Roose Bolton is currently holding. And they cut off Jaime's right hand. He's a righty. He is a member of the Kingsguard. He's one of the best swordsmen in Westeros. And basically his entire life up until that point had been his right hand. He was nothing without that right hand. So, it's a life-changing, needless to say, moment for Jaime. And it starts the Jaime Lannister face turn in the show. So he goes from being the Kingslayer. You disagree with me?
I'm disagreeing with everything Dan's doing.
He's the Kingslayer, and now he starts to become Jaime Lannister. He starts to turn into a at least likable-ish character.
What happens, which we kind of have to go backstepping a little bit, which we didn't mean to have to do, is when Theon gets captured by Ramsay.
Yeah.
So Theon is attacked by his own people at Winterfell when he takes it over, and he pretends to burn the Stark brothers, Bran and Rickon. And Ramsay Bolton gets introduced, and he comes and he saves Theon because he's kind of just strung up and being beaten by his own people. What they do instead, I can't wait for this next comment. Oh my god. Theon gets chained with his arms out to his side, and they're just beating him. He'll become Reek in season 3. Ramsay saves him and ends up actually recapturing him for himself.
Like a game.
And just tortures him. It's insane. That's what they keep calling it. They end up calling it a game at one point, correct?
I think so. Ramsay's a sick SOB.
Yeah, Ramsay's going to come in a lot more, and we'll talk about him. We're going to skip to Dario Naharis. So, Dany she left Astapor and went to Yunkai, where she'll meet 3 men. She'll meet Dario Naharis and these 2 other guys with him. One of the guys just wants to straight out bang her. Dario clearly has a thing for her, but is more of a gentleman. And then there's another guy there who doesn't care, and they're kind of like 3 assassins. What goes on is... Oh my god, Dan. So what happens is Dario brings the heads of the 2 other men to Daenerys and says, "You can trust me." And that's when he goes to... What town does he go to where he ends up assassinating like everybody with Jorah and...
Oh, I think it's in Yunkai. I'm not sure. It's either Yunkai or Marine. And
I think it's Yunkai, to be honest.
Still, nothing Daenerys does is important.
So we did that. Sansa and Tyrion end up having to get married. Tywin has this master plan. So we talked about Marjorie and Joffrey, Cersei and Loras, and now... What? And now Joffrey, Sansa and Tyrion. So they get wed, and it's kind of an embarrassment. Joffrey at the wedding takes away the stool that Tyrion obviously has to stand on to cloak Sansa. So they get married. But Tyrion, this is where he starts to become like a really good guy. He tells Sansa, like, we're not going to do anything if you don't really want to, and he doesn't, because on their first night of marriage, you're supposed to go and get carried away to your bedroom where you're going to get your wife pregnant.
The bedding ceremony.
He doesn't do that. He gets really trashed at the wedding, and he starts fighting back with Joffrey, because we'll go into that too.
There's a lot of tension between Tyrion, his father, Cersei, and Joffrey, because Tyrion's the only one that... Yeah, it's hard to explain, but Tyrion is the only one that at least has some sort of good bone in his body.
We are going to jump to where Ser Davos is. So, Stannis Baratheon, after the Battle of Blackwater, flees to Dragonstone.
I believe it's at Dragonstone, yeah.
Where he keeps Ser Davos kind of captured because he disagrees with the Red Woman who Stannis believes can win him everything. Gendry also arrives, and again... she uses the King's blood, which is technically Gendry's blood this time. She puts leeches on him and takes them. And who dies?
So she uses, I think it was 3 leeches on Gendry. 1 for Joffrey, if I'm not mistaken. 1 for Robb Stark. And 1 for Balon Greyjoy, who names himself King of the Iron Islands.
That's right.
So she wants to kill the 3 other members that have named themselves king, leaving the one true king, Stannis Baratheon.
Correct.
Kind of happens. So.
But what happens is Ser Davos gets freed and becomes, who's the daughter? What's the daughter's name?
Shireen.
Shireen. She's this little girl who has this like burn on her face. It's dragon scale, right?
Grayscale.
Who he becomes friendly with, and she teaches him how to read. It's this little girl. She's a really cool character for a little while. So he gets set. So Davos is free. And he sets Gendry free. What happens is he just sends him on some ship, this little canoe, more or less.
And Gendry rose for 4 seasons.
Yeah, he just kind of disappears for a long-ass time. But the Red Woman says, "Oh, well, Stannis, now there's a problem, like you just lost the person we need to win the war." And that's when Davos understands, like, hey, Stannis, I know you have to kill me. And this is when they learn about the White Walkers and the Wildlings in the north. And Stannis decides we have to march north, and the Red Woman says you need to keep Davos alive then. Yeah. So Ser Davos will survive another day with this part. And now we'll go into the 2 final episodes of Season 3. We're going to start with the Reigns of Castamere. This was the saddest thing ever. For a lot of people, it was crazy, because when this episode ended, it was like you kind of had to figure, who do you watch for?
Right, yeah.
Because it was like, where are all your favorite characters now? Or who are the characters that you really like?
The only family that you root for watching the show is the Starks. So
we're gonna bring in the Freys. We're gonna bring in Walder Frey.
Yeah.
He's another one, kind of like Craster, who all of his daughters he ends up marrying all of them, right?
He just has so many.
Yeah, he just
There's like 40 Freys.
he just gives the pipe to everybody.
And every family hates the Freys. No one likes them. So nobody wants to wed their family. No one wants to link their families to them. So there's like 30 Freys that.
And what happens is
married.
Rob swore an oath that he would marry one of the Frey daughters in order for help with a fight, I believe, or a battle.
For the bridge to cross to get south.
Just to cross the bridge to get south.
Yeah.
And that he ends up meeting Talisa, who he ends up marrying, like we talked about.
Right.
And Walter Frey plays it off like, oh, hey, this is cool, like, don't worry about it, we're not going to worry about it. Dylan, you're a sick fuck.
So instead
It's my show.
Instead of Robb Stark, the King of the North, marrying one of Walder Frey's daughters, they agree that Edmure Tully, who is a Stark bannerman, Catelyn's brother, will marry one of the Freys. So this is a wedding held at the Twins, which is a castle relatively up north, that the Starks attend. Robb brings his wife Talisa as a sign of respect, at least, to Walder Frey. Do you want to take over?
Robb ends up playing everything cool and just, like, keeps everything calm. Walder Frey has this whole master plan behind it all. Roose Bolton is also there the whole time. He's sitting with Catelyn, and it's weird because they're not supposed to be friendly, and they're just sitting and talking, and all of a sudden this song comes on, and Catelyn gets, like, this idea going on, and the song being played is The Rains of Castamere. Now, the episode was spelt, hi Aunt Ronnie, The Rains of Castamere with R-A-I-N-S, when the song is spelled with an R-E-I-G-N-S. So it was a big thing that, like, not a lot of people noticed. If you watch the show with subtitles, that's how I picked it up.
And it's the house song of Lannisters. So it's the Lannister house song.
So before we even get into that, before we tell you how that episode ends, we'll go into how Roose Bolton finds Jaime with one hand back at Harrenhal, and he takes, how does he go? How does he put it? The famous line.
Well, when Jaime and Roose are talking at Harrenhal, obviously Roose ends up, he's a Stark bannerman, but he turns on the Starks.
Yeah, he's going to tell Jaime, I'm going to the wedding for the Freys and the Tullys, and Jaime tells him, send my regards. So Catelyn and Roose are just sitting there, and what happens is all of a sudden Catelyn sees Roose trying to give her this look while the Rains of Castamere is playing, and she rolls up his sleeve and he has on chainmail for defense, so she realizes something's wrong. Robb is standing in the middle of the room with Walder Frey talking to him, and all of a sudden somebody comes up and stabs Talisa in the stomach, who Robb had found out like a minute beforehand is pregnant. And she tells him she wants to name the boy Ned, and he wants Robb to teach him everything in the ways of being a Stark. So it's like a really happy moment for them, and these archers come over the top, and they just keep shooting everybody in the Tully and the Stark army. So what happens eventually is that Robb gets up and crawls over to Talisa, who is clearly already dead. We're going to start crossing off again. While Catelyn is standing there begging Walder Frey to just keep her and let everybody else go until Robb gets shot one more time and he goes down. And then the episode ends where Catelyn gets her throat slit by, I think it was Roose Bolton, to be honest. So we didn't put Talisa as a major character.
We didn't put Talisa.
That's okay.
Yeah, the only notable characters that made it out of the Red Wedding alive is the Blackfish.
Haley, what's up?
Hey. The Blackfish survives, and we don't have him written down. He's not very important. Edmure Tully, who actually got married at the Red Wedding.
He survived.
He actually survived and was held captive.
Another sad moment for this is that the Hound had Arya with him. The Hound had kind of rescued Arya. They became a cool duo to have for a while.
Can you call him a bromance?
No.
Okay, no bromance.
I mean, Arya isn't going to find anybody in the show even before it ends, but...
Arya's supposed to be a boy, so I would call him a bromance.
And her hair is terrible in real life. But they pull up just as it happens, and the first thing Arya sees is they also go and they kill Greywind.
Oh,
They aim all the archers in there.
Oh,
They
that's right.
cut the head off of Greywind, and they, like, cut through the clavicle of Robb Stark and sew his direwolf's head onto Robb Stark riding a horse chained down. It was a really sick scene. And then the season finale was called Misa. This is where pretty much everybody finds out that the Red Wedding happened. Also, as Roose goes and stabs Robb one more time, he tells him the Lannisters send their regards. Misa is where Dany is in. I think she's still in Yunkai. I don't think she went to Marine yet.
She's in Yunkai.
And she frees all these people again. So now she's got the Dothraki, the Unsullied, and now she's got everyone from Yunkai with her who walk out, and they all put their hands on her. This is really the only. I mean, I don't remember much else from the episode. I still actually just recently watched it. But with Daario Naharis' help and Jorah and Grey Worm, they're all standing guard waiting to see who's going to come out of Yunkai. And what happens is Dany has the balls to just walk through everybody, and she's walking around. They're putting her hands on her, and they're saying Misa. And Jorah asks Missandre, what are they saying? And she tells them they're saying mother. So she learns that she becomes very important to these people. Dany's vocabulary and her ethnicities of just her, when you learn another language, she becomes like multilingual.
I don't know.
I don't know what that means. She becomes multilingual, excuse me. So she just keeps learning the languages of all these people. She's becoming very trustworthy for them. And that's how season 3 goes. Is there anything you think we could have missed? Is there anyone else alive that shouldn't be?
I'm
Did
there.
Balon die? I don't remember.
I don't think he died
Don't
yet.
think he
No. I don't think it's in season 3. I think it's at the start of 4. That Jorah gets dismissed from Daenerys for.
In season 4.
I think it's 4. For betraying her. Otherwise, I don't think we really missed a whole lot. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, no, I think we got it.
Yes, I see that. So we're gonna go into season 4 now. Season 4 starts where Jaime is reunited with Cersei and the Lannisters. Tywin takes Ned Stark's sword Ice and breaks it down into 2 other swords. I don't remember what they were called.
Widow's Wail and Oathkeeper.
Which he gives to.
Joffrey and Jaime.
And they have a big talk, Tywin and Jaime, about how he's going to have to learn to fight with his left and it'll never be as good as his right. It's kind of a slap in the face. Jaime and Cersei reunite. Cersei's kind of like, you've been gone, and she hates him for a while, and all Jaime wants to do is get laid, and it's really sick. The second episode is called The Lion and the Rose. This is the wedding of Joffrey and Marjorie. So, with Tyrion as the master of coin, he does his whole wedding ceremony, sets everything up, and everybody's at the wedding, all the Tyrells, all the Lannisters. They wed, everything goes well, and all of a sudden, there's this guy who's posing as he ends up saving Sansa at the end. What do they call
Sir Dantos?
Yeah, but what is he?
The
He
fool?
used to be a knight, he becomes a fool,
Yeah.
and Joffrey decides, hey, I'll fight the fool. So Joffrey goes and gets out there, and all of a sudden he turns purple, he starts foaming at the mouth, and eventually you learn that Joffrey was poisoned. Joffrey finally dies, the biggest douche at the time
Purple
on the
wedding.
show.
Damn.
So,
And
knock another
as
person
he's
off.
dying, he's like reaching for his throat. He reaches out either for his wine glass, which is what he was drinking, or for Tyrion, who had been filling his wine glass the entire wedding. So immediately Cersei, in her very rational motherly mind, jumps to the conclusion that Tyrion was behind the poisoning of Joffrey.
Tyrion and Sansa are still married in this, so that's a cool thing to remember. Another big thing to remember is that Arya and the Hound are still together, and the Hound is kind of being a nice guy about it. He knows that she saw her brother's death technically, or she saw him dead and what happened, and it's like a bad way to go. But again, they're gonna continue to be. I wouldn't call them friendly because he's on her list. Arya makes this list of people she's going to kill.
They're traveling mates.
So yeah, they just hang around for a while. Go ahead.
I forgot what I was going to say.
I'll keep going then if it comes back to you. Eventually, Brienne is walking around and she finds the Hound and Arya, and they get into this massive fight to where you see the Hound. It's a big fight. Like, they roll around down hills and like off mountainsides. It seems like it's a really cool fight
It's a good
scene.
fight.
And it ends where you think that the Hound is dead. Like, they kind of leave you trailing, and Brienne has gotten her shit kicked.
I'm pretty sure she bites his ear.
I think so. His good ear, not his burnt ear.
Right, yeah. It's messed up.
Because the Hound has half a burn on his face, which is why we'll go into why he hates
Yeah.
fire eventually.
Little
We
Clegane.
kind of skipped the whole Clegane thing in the beginning, but that's okay. We'll come back to it.
We're introduced to Oberyn Martell in season 4. Oberyn Martell is known as the Red Viper. He hates the Lannisters, specifically Tywin Lannister and the Mountain. The Mountain is kind of like the hitman for the Lannisters, or like an executioner type.
Cameron says hi.
What's up, Cameron? So Oberyn, and he states straight up to Tyrion that he's there to get revenge on the Lannisters. So, After Joffrey dies at his own wedding, immediately Sansa is taken and disappears. No one knows where she is, but Sir Dantos, the former fool,
He did it. Nope, we admitted we're already talking.
We're not talking about
We
Hot
already
Pot.
talked about it. We're not doing it.
He who should not be named. That's a little Harry Potter crossover.
Dylan, stop.
So Sansa gets onto a ship. Turns out Littlefinger's on the ship. Littlefinger was behind, or at least partially behind, helping Sansa escape King's Landing. Then pretty much, I would say the King's Landing story. The next biggest thing is like the trial for Tyrion for his murder, or for the murder of Joffrey. The trial by combat. I don't know if there's anything else.
No to Dylan, not to you. We're not talking.
He's a survivor.
We're not talking about it.
Yeah, he didn't die.
He's basically Voldemort. Don't say it.
He didn't die, so
Hell,
that's,
you
that's
like
us
that in
talking
Harry
about him.
Potter. You had me add to this that Stannis goes north to fight the Whites. I don't remember this. I'm kind of blank on seasons 4
So
and 5.
that's at the end of. That's towards the end of season 4.
Okay, so we'll go into it. Littlefinger marries Lysa Arryn. That's a thing. So what happens is he goes to the Vale. He marries her, and when no one is around, they have this big, what's called the Moon Door. We'll talk about it now, Dylan. The Moon Door, like you mentioned in the first part of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
The pie is not hot. Anyways, pod the pipe.
Pod the pipe.
Anyways, and Littlefinger kicks Lysa Arryn straight through this Moon Door.
Like a King Leonidas Spartan kick. That's a 300 reference, people.
I hope they know. So you can cross off Lysa.
Oh, Lysa.
So
yeah,
basically,
she's
all that's left of the Arryns is the little boy.
little Robin Arryn.
By the way, who became king after Joffrey died, technically?
Your boy Tommen, named king.
Right. So before we go into Dylan, good call there. That's a nice save. The trial by combat for Tyrion was between the Mountain and
Oberyn Martell, correct.
Right. And what happens is Oberyn is like actually kind of beaten down on the Mountain. He's at least half his size. And it's a cool scene. It's actually really gruesome.
Yeah.
The Mountain gets down on top of Oberyn, and he ends up putting both of his thumbs through his eyes.
Just like a grape.
Yeah, it's the one chance he has to beat him, and he does so. Nice save there, Dylan. We appreciate that. We'll go in. Go ahead. Tommen became king after Joffrey died. The next technical Baratheon, they still think.
Tommen was the king after Joffrey. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So technically, he would be the next Baratheon in line, which screwed things. Can you see my phone percentage? Probably not, right?
Okay, so after Oberyn dies, Tyrion's found guilty of
Yes, he does, Stephen.
murdering.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's a good part.
I like that.
Tyrion's found guilty. Basically, is imprisoned. Jaime, his brother, along with Varys, helps Tyrion escape imprisonment, and Varys and Tyrion get on a ship. Tyrion in a crate, and sail off to Essos in search
It's
of
just like me and Smash Bros.
Refuge or the rightful queen. So that kind of ends Tyrion's line, at least in season 4.
For a while.
I
wrote down the Watchers of the Wall. I know that was episode 9.
Yeah, so that's the Battle
4.
of Castle Black.
Okay.
So heading north at the wall. Let me just make sure
it's
I have.
my mom, Haley.
Okay, so the Watchers of the Wall. So Jon, actually there was a quick side point. Jorah Mormont, the Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. This happens in season 4, I believe. Was killed by his own men at Craster's Keep. So there was no Lord Commander or official Lord Commander. There is, if I'm not mistaken, an actual vote, and I'm pretty sure that Jon. I know Jon does become the Lord Commander, but so Jon becomes Lord Commander of the Night's Watch. Towards the end of the season, there's a big battle between the Wildlings and the Night's Watch at the wall at Castle Black. I'm pretty sure it took the entire episode. I think it was a full episode battle. Unfortunately, you see Ygritte die in Jon Snow's arms in battle. It's a very sad ending. But as far as main members, I don't think you see anybody else really die. Generally, the Night's Watch was successful in the defense of Castle Black, and after the first night of battling, Jon decides to ride north of the wall to try to work some sort of a treaty with Mance Rayder. as he's talking to Mance, that is when Stannis and his fleet, with the Red Woman, with Sir Davos, attack north of the wall. They attack the wildlings, and basically they capture Mance Rayder, and Jon Snow, Mance, Stannis, the Red Woman, Sir Davos, they're all at Castle Black, post-battle. So that kind of fills out at the wall.
And then we'll go into the season finale, which was called The Children. Ollie is a little shit. That's right.
Ollie sucks.
Ollie sucks. So this was the other guy. I don't know his name.
Who?
They hang him too. Anyways,
Alistair Thorne. Sir Alistair Thorne. Yeah, he sucks too.
So we'll do the end of season 4, and then I'm gonna leave Richie here for a minute with you guys. Was called The Children. How it ends was Tyrion takes a crossbow and just shoots Tywin on the toilet.
Right on the what do they call it? A pot? What do they call it?
Oh, I don't know.
I have to clean my. Someone help me out.
Yeah, Uncle Doug.
Someone help me
Martin, Steven, somebody save us. What do they call the bathroom?
Chamber pot. Clean my chamber pot.
I didn't remember that.
Yeah, so Tywin gets shot in the chest, right in the chamber pot. How about that?
What else is season 4?
Oh, Tywin dies.
Tywin, cross off Tywin.
Season 4, I think that one of the biggest parts of the show in season 4 is that Bran, I'm pretty sure at this point he met the Three-Eyed Raven in season 4. The Three-Eyed Raven can see in the past, can see in the future, can see all different times.
She thinks The Children aired on Father's Day. That'd be
wow.
Awesome.
Yikes.
That's awesome if you remember that.
That is pretty impressive. And Bran is, with the help of the Three-Eyed Raven, can go back in time and see how certain things unfold.
Look at who he defends. You're gonna go into season 5. I'll be back in a minute.
Okay. So Bran, in the episode The Children, sees the creation of the first ever White Walker, where the children of the forest, basically a small little group of green creatures who have like leaves for hair. They were one of the first inhabitants of Westeros. They plunge a dragonglass dagger into the chest of, we don't really know the character's identity. His eyes turn blue. He becomes the first White Walker. Big backstory there, but basically he ends up becoming the most evil force that the land has known, and a threat to even the children themselves that they didn't see coming. So I think that is one of the biggest parts of season 4. Also, Arya and the Hounds. After the Hounds kind of falls down the mountain, after battling with Brienne, Arya finds a ship, and she has a coin that was given to her by a man named Jack in her car earlier in season 2. And basically, she gives the coin to the member of, or the captain of the ship, and she says Valar Morghulis, which means all men must die. And she gets on a ship and she's heading to Bravos, which is like I don't know, England. If you were to equate New York City to, or United States to Europe, she's probably up in England where Bravos is. There in season 5 and 6, her story kind of unfolds a little bit more and takes a bigger step. But that pretty much ends Arya's line in season 4. Tyrion also kills the love of his life, Shae, just before she kills Tywin. She strangles him because she was sleeping with Tywin. So much for falling in love with a whore in the first place. And also, at the end of 4, Daenerys is confronted by a father whose child had been burned by dragonfire. So she decides, she had trouble containing Drogon, her biggest dragon, but she chains up her 2 other dragons, Viserion and Rhaegal, inside of a pyramid, which, needless to say, kind of pisses them off. It's kind of like you're caging a dog for eternity. By the way, hi Slinky, that's my puppy, everybody. Okay, I think that's everything for 4. Shae is just the worst. She leads you on to be such this loyal character, but then during the trial for Tyrion, she completely outs him for no reason, makes up these facts. She was not my favorite character, needless to say. I believe also in season 4 that Euron Greyjoy gets introduced, pushes his older brother, the King of the Iron Islands, off of a land bridge, and Balon Greyjoy dies. Euron and Theon... Nope, I'm sorry. Well, Balon Greyjoy definitely dies. I think Euron names himself the Lord of the Iron Islands. I just want to make sure I'm up to date with our deaths, and then we'll move on to season 5. Yeah, I think that we are all good. Okay, yeah, I think we're good. I don't know. If you guys see something, let me know. Okay, so season 5 starts with a flashback with Cersei Lannister as like a maybe 14-year-old girl, where she's talking to this, I don't know if you call her a woman, but I don't even know, wizard. That's not the right word. But she basically tells her that she's gonna have 3 children. Gold will be their crowns. Gold will be their shrouds. Yada yada yada. Everything in this prophecy comes true. Little aside, book readers know that in the prophecy that Cersei's going to get killed by one of her younger brothers. They don't include it in the show, so I don't get incredibly wrapped up in it. That's just me. But a lot of people like to think that.
Ooh, what did I say? Come on.
Yeah. So that kind of starts off season 5 with the Cersei flashback, so to speak.
You're still in season 5?
I just started season 5. You left at 4, so we're in 5.
You still were doing 4?
You said finish up 4. Well, I'm finishing up 4. I'm doing what you told me to do.
Alright, go ahead.
I started 5. All right, north of at the wall. Mance Rayder is being, the Red Woman wants to burn Mance Rayder alive. So Stannis does so because he has no brain upstairs and just does anything she says. So as Mance Rayder is burning, Jon Snow from a step shoots an arrow at him, kind of puts him out of his misery. Shows some mercy, and I think that that's really what started Jon's maybe connection or strengthened his connection with the Wildlings and the Night's Watch, kind of bringing them two together. But you want to jump in, or you want me to keep
If you already mentioned something, just bring it back up.
Okay.
So what happens is now Bronn and Jaime are going to have another bromance. It's going to start, so we're on to bromance number 3 or 4 now.
Yep.
Bronn is going to help Jaime train to fight with his left hand.
Yep.
Becomes a big thing. Jaime needs to become basically the Kingslayer again. Theon is still captive with Ramsay.
Yep.
Now this is when Littlefinger decides he needs to...
We didn't mention that he cuts his manhood off.
Yeah, I did.
You said it?
Oh no, I mentioned
Yeah.
Grey Worms. So
Theon doesn't have a...
he also becomes a eunuch. They also castrate him.
Yeah. And then
because it's his favorite toy, and they send it to Yara and Balin, his sister and dad. And his dad doesn't care about going to get him, but his sister does.
Yeah, and then like Ramsay goes and eats a piece of sausage, and it's a little bit of comedy in the show. Yeah, a little bit.
You're right, Dylan. So what gets nuts is now these crazy things are happening. Sansa's character is really going to develop. She's there, and Littlefinger trades her to Ramsay.
Yep.
Ramsay, do they get married technically?
Ramsay and Sansa get married, and basically everyone wants to marry Sansa because that will give them a right to Winterfell.
And because she hit puberty, so things are developing. Anyways, Ramsay, what is it? Unbent, unbroken, the worst episode of the series. Yep, Sansa
Season
gets...
5, episode 5.
Am I still on live now?
No,
Okay,
we're good?
sorry.
You're on.
I don't think when it gets to 10% on me now. We're almost done. We're getting there.
Getting there.
So yeah, Sansa's how life becomes hell. Ramsay's the truest asshole of everybody.
Yeah.
This is where, well, in season 5, nope. Jorah takes Tyrion.
Yeah.
And has him handcuffed. One of my favorite episodes come up on this, and it was really cool. So now Jorah, Tyrion, and Dany are gonna have this bond, and Tyrion is gonna become an extra.
Jorah gets grayscale in the process.
Right. Because they're getting attacked, and Tyrion falls off this boat and gets dragged down, and he ends up waking up, and Jorah saved him, and he rolls up his sleeve, and he has grayscale, which is where your skin just like hardens, right?
You pretty much turn into a rock.
Yeah, you become a statue.
Yeah.
The sand snakes are gonna attack in this season. You go into that if you remember it.
The sand snakes are from Dorne. It's the furthest south piece of land. It's a little bit more important in the books, or has a bigger role. But basically, they're Oberyn Martell's daughters. So they also hate the Lannisters. I don't know if we touched on it before, but Marcella Lannister, I'll say Lannister, was shipped off to Dorne earlier in the season. So there's tension between the Lannisters and the Martells of Dorne over Marcella's life. Jaime and Bronn go to Dorne to try to rescue Marcella.
Oh, that's right. I watched season 1 like 5 times.
Yeah, it's like the worst rescue mission. It's just two guys, just one with one hand, going to try to rescue somebody. It fails miserably, but they end up getting Marcella back. As Marcella gets exchanged, traded.
Yeah.
She gets kissed by Ilaria Sand. No, I think it's Ilaria Sand. Who cares? Marcella gets on a ship, tells Jaime that she knows that he's really her father, and then she got poisoned. She dies.
I don't remember that. Holy shit. Okay.
Yeah, she dies on a ship.
This is where Daenerys finally goes to Marine.
Daenerys goes to Marine, uses her Unsullied to really kind of take force, and tries to rule in Marine. It's like her first time trying to be a ruler and kind of like a little test run for.
So she's got the army, but now she needs to prove she can really be a queen of everything.
Right. Yep.
And rule over it.
Yeah.
This is where Arya will also meet the Faceless Man.
Right. Yep. So I said
what's
that's
his real name? Jaqen
Hakkar at the House of Black and White.
So he trains these people to become assassins. They become like shapeshifters. Their faces change. They can become whoever they want. And he has these other 2 chicks with her, who are like they just beat down on Arya.
The Wave, yeah. Well, yeah, that's more in 6 that they really beat her up.
Oh right, because she becomes blind.
Yeah.
So before the season ends, he punishes Arya for.
She kills Sir Meryn Trant, who was one of the members of the King's Guard, Oysters, Clams, and Cockles.
Right, that's right.
And she poses as a harlot. What do I say again?
I don't remember.
And she stabs him like right in the eye, and then she stabs him like 45 times. Faceless God Jaqen Hakkar doesn't really like that because he took a life that she wasn't supposed to. And I think it's at the end of 5 that she goes blind. She loses her eyes.
And she starts off on 6 blind.
Yeah, so that kind of ends Arya's story.
We're going to talk about an episode of season 5, episode 8. It's called Hard Home. I don't remember it well. He'll go into it for you.
So a lot kind of happens in Hard Home. Tyrion and Jorah kind of convene with Daenerys at Marine. Jorah's kind of fighting in these fighting pits, just trying to literally fight his way to be with Daenerys. He brings over Tyrion as kind of like he calls him a gift, just because.
And he's another adversary for her.
Right,
it's good to have for her.
And initially, Daenerys, Jorah thought that a Lannister would have been a nice little token or a prize for Daenerys. But also in Hardhome, Jon Snow goes north of the Wall with the Wildlings, and in return, they're going to bring the Wildlings south of the Wall for refuge against the Night King and the Army of the Dead. Little did they know that they were going to be attacked by the Night King and his army. It's I think it's really the first battle with the Night King, the White Walkers. In that battle, we don't really get any big-time deaths. Night's Watch members get kind of run through. Wildling members get run through. Jon Snow actually kills a White Walker. It's the first White Walker that he kills. It's the first White Walker he kills using Longclaw, his Valyrian steel sword. It's just like an epic 20-minute battle. And at the very end, the Night King, it's very memeable, gifable, I don't even know, kind of raises his arms and just brings back all of the bodies that are on the ground from battle, just rise up, and they're just numbers added to the Army of the Dead. So his
army basically is rebuilt again.
It's a big time mic drop to end episode 8. So that kind of goes on north of the Wall. So basically that episode ends with Jon, Tormund, Wildlings in array, just trying to sail back to the Wall.
And then the season finale is known as Mother's Mercy. This is a crazy episode where it ends and you just get left on a major cliffhanger. We'll go into the Cersei part of it first. Basically, Cersei is tried by, what's that old guy's name?
The High Septon.
Yep, the High Septon.
Such a dumb
And he has her, why did she get tried?
Incest?
Incest, yeah. And he basically makes her take off all her clothes and walk through all the streets, and they just keep chanting shame over and over again.
Shame.
So she gets humiliated in front of everybody, and at the end of it, the mountain carries her inside away from everybody.
Speaking of the mountain, when he battled Oberyn Martell for Tyrion's trial by combat, Oberyn was known as the Viper. He has a very extensive knowledge of poison. He poisoned the mountain, and a man named Qyburn kind of brought him back to life or resurrected the mountain. So now the mountain doesn't talk. He looks like an old fish.
He kind of looks like Thanos, but not as cool.
Okay. I don't really. I mean,
Not
it's
yet.
Josh Brolin.
Dan,
so.
we're almost on season 7. Good timing.
6.
We're going into 6 real quick. So another thing that happens is Jon gets betrayed by the Night's Watch. They say they need him somewhere, and that somebody came that he knows from the past, and he goes and they have written there.
Yeah.
What does it say? Does it just say traitor?
It says traitor.
And he turns around and somebody says for the watch, and they stab him, and he goes down. And then all these members of the Night Watch just keep going for the watch, for the watch, for the watch, and stabbing him over and over again. And it ends with the little dickhead Ollie who does it too. And Jon just kind of shakes him off and says, don't do it. And he does. Before all that, though, a good thing that kind of gave you a hint to season 6 was that the Red Woman showed up at Castle Black, correct? Because she was there when he died.
Yeah, I think so. I don't
remember after it was, but she was already there.
Oh wait, season 5.
That's how season 5 ends.
Yeah, we have the Ramsay Stannis battle in season 5.
Go ahead, go into it quick.
Stannis wants Jon to join his force to battle Ramsay for Winterfell.
Yes.
He wants to legitimize Jon as a Stark, use his name to get his armies. Jon refuses, wants to be Lord Commander, yada yada yada, loyal to what my job is. So Stannis, because the Red Woman says he's going to win, goes into battle, gets absolutely obliterated by Ramsay and his army. And Brienne of Tarth, who was at one point following Arya, then following Sansa, was near the battlefield, and she had pledged an oath that she would kill Stannis Baratheon because he was who killed Renly Baratheon.
Correct.
So
using the Red Woman's little black demon.
right,
baby.
Brienne does the honors, do your duty, and kills Stannis Baratheon. So there are no legitimate Baratheons remaining.
Tommen is still alive, correct?
Tom's still alive. Jon dies.
Jon gets killed. Cross him off.
Cross him off. Let's see.
We're gonna run through the list because that's how season 5 ends, and then we're gonna rewrite Jon's name.
Yeah. Do you want to write actually that Beric died? Because he did die.
No, so we're gonna quickly go into the Beric and Thoros thing.
Yeah, they're the Brotherhood Without Banners. Basically, they were loyal to King Robert, the king at the beginning of the show, and basically kind of raid cities or towns in the name of King Robert and try to serve the right king, the rightful king. Ned Stark had a relatively close relationship with them, so they also looked over Arya for a time. They looked over Gendry for a time.
When they were with Arya, they were also with the Hound.
The
so they were all
Hound,
together.
yeah. So the Hound kills Beric Dondarrion, but Thoros of Myr, a Red Priestess similar to the Red Woman, has brought back Beric at least like 6 or 7 times in the show.
Yeah, they talked about it. It was 6.
Yeah, okay. Is that the answer to that?
It was like a day. I watched it right after we went there.
Okay.
So now we'll dive into season 6 and in season 7 especially, we'll talk about Beric and Thoros. A huge thing happens. So season 6 starts off where Jon is dead, and they have him laying on a table, and the Red Woman walks in. And the Red Woman is, simply enough, able to bring Jon back to life.
Yeah.
Go ahead and put him back in there. So Jon is back and living again. We'll talk about what happens. Did I actually put that? I did not.
Oh, yikes, that's
So,
rough.
it's upside down, it's alright.
I tried.
So what happens is Jon actually takes everybody. He needs to make a point of what happened and make sure people realize that he is he should be their leader. What happens is he takes all the members of the Night Watch who stabbed him, and he hangs them all in front of everybody. Even Ollie is up there, and they hang everybody. So Ollie finally gets to go to hell.
Yep.
Arya is still blind, and this is where she starts her training. She's still training with the faceless man, and the 2 other girls. What do you call them? The Wave?
The Waif. Waif.
Oh God! All right, the Wave.
WAIF.
Are just like kicking the snot out of her left and right. They like
Yeah.
use these sticks and things to beat her, and
Yeah.
she's trying to train and get past them, but that doesn't work out so well for a while.
Basically, the entire season for Arya is just getting her face kicked in.
Yeah. Sansa is still with Ramsay.
They do escape.
They will escape. We'll talk about that.
They escape during. They escape just before Ramsay returns
They
after defeating
escape
Stannis.
in
It's the end of 5. Her and Theon jump off of. It's very unrealistic. They jump off like a cliff off the Winterfell castle, and then they just survive and run away.
We'll go into that. We're gonna have to do this in a third part, I think, too. By the way, so which is okay.
We could run.
We still have everybody, and we have things to do at the end. Dany hides her dragons in that pyramid thing.
Yeah, I said that for the end of 4.
Oh, you did? Okay, perfect. So now Tyrion finally comes face to face with the dragons who are at full size now, right?
Yeah, Daenerys, the Dothraki, is nowhere to be found. Gotcha. 10%.
Hi, Nadine.
The Sons of the Harpy, I'm going back to 5 really quick. Sons of the Harpy kind of rebelled against Daenerys as she was ruling Meereen. There was some conflict there. One of Dany's dragons picks her up, rides her off to safety, really just leaves everyone else.
Yeah, but she finally rides the dragon.
She rides a dragon,
which is cool. It's gonna come up in season 7.
Lands in a field and immediately just gets taken by the Dothraki.
Yeah, she lands in a bad spot.
So there's no Daenerys. Tyrion goes into the catacombs, which is where the dragons are being held, and unchains them.
You told me to add that Cersei sends Jaime to River Run.
Cersei sends Jaime to River Run. They were laying siege, or the phrase where the Red Wedding takes place, were holding River Run.
At the Twins.
Well, the Freys are from the Twins, but they're after the Red Wedding, they were given River Run as their prize.
Okay.
The Blackfish
took
back River Run, which is the Tully ancestral home. So he took back what's rightfully his. And the Freys were threatening the Blackfish with Edmure Tully. Jaime Lannister comes in with Bronn and pretty much says that this is the worst siege they've ever seen. Yada yada yada. Basically, that also Brienne comes down at the same time. This is a little mishmash. Sansa sends Brienne to the Blackfish.
Thanks.
The Blackfish happens to be Sansa's uncle.
Correct.
Sansa pleads for the Blackfish's army and his support in trying to take back Winterfell. He declines because he's the Blackfish, and that's
just kind of what he is. Yeah, he's kind of a douche.
Yeah, he's not your favorite.
Nudges his shoulder.
But basically, Jaime and the Lannister army take back River Run, give it back to the Freys, and they imprison or further imprison Edmure Tully.
Correct. We will go into the Hold the Door. So I don't know if you remember that Hodor. All he says is Hodor.
Hodor.
That's all he can say.
Smart.
So what happens is the Night King decides he's going to attack the Three-Eyed Raven. During so, they end up running through. Is that the tunnel to the wall? Or no, I don't think so. But they end up running through this long ass tunnel. Nadine, I didn't know you watched.
Yeah.
What happens is the only way.
She doesn't respond.
You're so lame.
Yeah.
So what happens is that's our cousin. It's okay. You're not gonna. So what happens is Bran and everybody kind of escape, and Hodor is just backed into the door because he's the biggest guy there, and he's just saying, "Hodor, hold the door, Hodor, Hodor."
That was very nice.
And thank you.
You're welcome.
So everybody basically escapes, but Hodor does not. Hodor doesn't make it, so cross him off the list.
Hodor dies.
Hodor does not survive. Hodor is dead.
Who?
That's a scary one.
Hodor dies.
Your girlfriend says hi.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Hello.
You said Benjen saves Bran. I don't remember this.
Yeah, so after the Night King attacks the Three-Eyed Raven, which is where Bran is being held, where Hodor holds the door, the Night King kills the Three-Eyed Raven, and Bran becomes the de facto Three-Eyed Raven. Mira Reed, who is one of Bran's friends, is kind of running with him on a sled. The Whites, or the army of the dead, kind of catches up to them, and Benjen Stark, Bran's uncle, the first Ranger way back, who we haven't seen since season 1.
Dan, do you mean Bran? Keep going.
Comes in and saves Bran, and kind of gives a little cameo appearance. I mean, he really wasn't in the show
for a long time, yeah. And he'll make another one in season 7, which is cool.
So that's kind of, I think that's how Bran kind of ends. I don't know. But that's not how Bran ends.
We're gonna go with Dany burns Vice Dothrak. I don't remember that.
Vice Dothraki, which is where Daenerys was being held by the Dothraki. She burns the whole thing to the ground, burns a lot of the Khalasar. the meow.
He thinks Hodor is gonna be a fucking White Walker now.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see
I know,
Hodor.
yeah. Damn, that's so sad.
But
Maybe now he can
burns
talk again.
everyone. She once again
Hi,
walks
Max,
out
we're
of
still going.
she walks out of this burning pyre, and once again it's like her one. It's like her trick is just walking out of fire. Gains the respect of all of
Ooh, is she right?
the Khalasar, Doshkalin. Yeah, those are the widows of the cows.
Cool.
The Khaleesi's.
Gotcha. Okay, I know.
So she obtains a Dothraki army there. Then basically comes back, saves Marine, which was under pretty much attack from former slave owners. Burns them to a crisp. Uses their ships they were attacking, and now Daenerys has her ships. She has her Dothraki. She has her Unsullied. She has her second sons.
Where's she going? Where's Lady
Jorah.
going?
From there?
Yes.
From Marine.
She goes.
From Marine, she sells to Dragonstone.
Correct. Okay, just make sure we say that.
Yeah.
So before we go into, because we only have 4 more minutes, I'll have to reset it again. So we're gonna reset again. So again, we're gonna go into the Battle of the Bastards, which we know you want to talk about. We'll talk about some reunited.
Just we'll wait.
Give it a minute because I know it's a longer episode to talk about. So we're gonna go into the Battle of the Bastards. We'll run through season 7 for you guys. So what you're gonna do again, close this out one more time. We will reopen it as a live. Re-click into our live video. Join us for the final season and our predictions.
Almost done.
We're almost there. We really are cruising through it. We're almost there. I promise you. This is the fastest we could do it. So we're giving you all the information again. Thank you for using us as your recap. Doesn't she leave the second sons to hold Marine from the Masters? She does leave Dario Naharis.
She leaves
somewhere.
Dario Naharis for sure.
Yeah.
Who cares
Dario
about
Naharis
Marine?
also randomly changed actors.
2 actors.
No one from this.
Yeah.
He was the ugliest dude that you'd ever seen. And now it's this other guy who's got nice hair.
Who cares about
So,
Marine?
we're going to close this out really quick. She's video carrying my cat. So now we're going to close this out and rejoin us live again, alright?
That's Tomlin's cat. Sir Pounce. Given by Marjorie.
Richie.
Want to eat again?
No, I'm actually okay.